As Kashimo bolts in to fight Sukuna, he looks up and sees a pillar of ice in the sky. He says, "You've come." And apparently what's going on here is that there's a huge block of ice above the ground, 203 meters, and keep this in mind, Hakari fans. And we see that who's on top of this is of course Uraume. It's then shown that the frozen star, Uraume, has entered the battle. And we all know this is just so Kashimo can't get to Sukuna. But somebody even intercepts her. From the sky we see some nice J's, and she looks up to see Hakari Kinji. Hakari looks down on her and says that he can't let her go anywhere. And Uraume expresses her boredom for Hakari already by saying that she doesn't really care. Hakari activates his domain expansion and says, "That goes without saying." Hakari versus Uraume begins. And now honestly, what a cool hype matchup. And to see Hakari flying in from the sky and activating his domain expansion on go after Gojo was killed, that is so hard. But obviously, this is more because he made a promise to Kashimo that if Kashimo came to join them, he would allow him to fight Sukuna. So Hakari, being the G that he is, of course, is doing this to help Kashimo in fulfilling his promise. We move away from Hakari versus Uraume, and it's shown that although Hakari was able to hold her back, the block of ice continued to fall into the ground, and it lands on top of Sukuna. As the ice falls around Sukuna, it's shown that the block of ice was only to deliver a weapon to him. This weapon being constructed by Yorozu in exchange for a binding vow at the end of her life. The cursed tool, Kamutoke. And this weapon's actually been shown to us before on a cover page. A lot of fans have been speculating that Sukuna would eventually get this back, and here it is. As Sukuna casually swipes his blade and unleashes a massive bolt of lightning on the Kashimo, and he says, "This brings back good times." We see that Kashimo's unscathed from the attack, because obviously we know that he's the Thunder God, and due to his cursed energy having the special characteristics of lightning, he also holds a resistance to electrical attacks. He calls for Sukuna, asking him, "Did you become the strongest, or were you the strongest when you were born?" Sukuna states that he's not sure himself, because at the very least, he was an unwanted child. Kashimo continues to question him, saying, "Without knowing weakness, how did you connect with others? How were you able to show affection to them? Because this is something I wasn't able to do. I saw everybody and everything around me as nothing more than pieces of dirt. Teach me, is strength loneliness, no limits, seeking the manifestation of power? To endlessly search for these answers, is that a punishment for being the strongest?" Sukuna just says, "Man, you're asking for a lot, but even Gojo was something like this, right? Come on then, Ghost." As Kashimo hears this, he can't help but just run in with massive glee, charging towards Sukuna with his staff and trying to swing it towards his head. But of course, Sukuna manages to block it with Kamutoke. As Kashimo prepares more attacks, Sukuna takes a step back in order to create space between the two. And as Sukuna's jumping backwards, this is when Kashimo activates his cursed technique, the Phantom Beast, Amber. We see Kashimo run in and land multiple attacks on Sukuna's face. And as Sukuna steps back once again to take more distance, Kashimo begins to inhale. And when we take a closer look at his face, it's shown that he's preparing a breath attack. And when Kashimo finally exhales, the attack is so fast and so strong that it instantly creates a massive explosion on Sukuna. And this just pushes him back even more. We look closer at Kashimo, and it's stated that what this mythical beast Amber is a transformation that Kashimo is able to use using his cursed energy. In order to materialize all of this electricity, he has to reconstruct his body. And as we cut back into the fight, we see that Kashimo has so much speed that his hand almost grazes Sukuna's face without him realizing it. But of course, Sukuna is able to dodge it. But he can't dodge again, as Kashimo was able to catch up to him very easily and land an earth-shattering punch to his face. And then it's explained even further. Kashimo's technique has a lot of scientific technicalities and intricacies, so to basically break this down very easily, it just enhances his body with electric armor. But due to the activity of the electrical signals in his brain, his agility and strength are also increased. But of course, this comes with damaging his brain and his body. Once this technique is finished, it's stated that Kashimo's body will crumble. Whether he will die, it's unknown. As Kashimo has finally landed multiple attacks, Sukuna's on the ground and Kashimo's able to prepare his signature lightning bolt. And as he unleashes it, a massive explosion comes from Sukuna's area. And the narrator cuts in, stating that Sukuna has a method of reviving his old body once without the means of reverse curse technique, and this was intentionally under suspension. We come into the battle, right after Sukuna has finally reobtained his Heian era prime form. And then it said, by using the X-rays, the analyzation of Ryomen Sukuna has begun. It reflected upon Kashimo's eyes. The result was absolute perfection. As we come closer to Sukuna's divine form, it's stated that even though Sukuna has hand signs, the other two arms are completely free for use. Without putting stress on his heart and lungs, he can perform a chant with absolutely no breaks. With 2 mouths and 4 arms, there is no greater advantage than this for a Jujutsu sorcerer. And on top of this, even though Sukuna has such a deformed body, he does not lose any bodily functions. Making full use of this godly divine body of his in both cursed tools, Kamutoke and Hiten, he was able to destroy the squads under the direct command of the Fujiwara clan, the Celestial Star Squad, and the Gokusho. 2 squads being Uro's group and Yorozu's group from the Heian era. And he was also able to drive back the Desai Chinbu squad that was made up of the best Abe clan, including Angel and the remnants of the Sugiwara clan. Kashimo witnesses perfection and says, "Oh why, how are you? So beautiful." He instantly dashes in towards Sukuna, but Sukuna is able to catch him with 2 of his arms. And then Sukuna uses his 2 other arms to punch Kashimo and send him flying. As Kashimo's flying backwards, he retaliates with a lightning bolt sent towards Sukuna, but Sukuna begins to chant, "Dragon scales, repel, parameteors," and he simply says, "Dodge this." He launches a dismantle 3 times his size towards Kashimo, and Kashimo's barely able to dodge it, with it cutting his hands open. And upon witnessing this divine technique, he instantly understands with his eyes. This is the cut that ended Gojo Satoru, a cut that can divide the entire world. There was an idiot who once told me about love. She said I had no idea what it was, and that I felt loneliness due to not knowing someone that had my power. I understand what she was trying to say, but I got offended when she said I didn't know anything about it. Well, I was talking with the wrong person. She should have been speaking to Gojo or Kashimo. It's not that you don't know, it's that you don't understand. Kashimo asks Sukuna what he's talking about, and Sukuna says, "You said you were strong, right?" He unleashes another bolt of lightning on the Kashimo with Kamutoke, and dashes right behind him and grabs his 2 arms once again, using his other 2 arms to punch Kashimo in the stomach. Kashimo falls to the ground and Sukuna picks him up and throws him once more. Kashimo tries to retaliate with another lightning bolt, but this is when it ends. A lot of veterans may have challenged you, trying their best against you, and they didn't curse you for defeating them. They wanted your recognition. They wanted you to know who they were, and you just killed them with absolute ease. I wonder how it is to relate with the rest, being compassionate, but if it isn't compassion, then what is it? We are loved because we are strong, and we reply to that love. But you still worry about loneliness. You are looking for something that you do not need. Aren't you satisfied? If not, why did you divide your soul and convert it into cursed objects to travel through time? I can say that because I understand it. There is no such thing as love. I never thought that someone would meet my expectations. I will eat them when I want. I will kill them if they are like a burden. I will play with them if I find them fun. I only live under my own terms, and not being able to measure it is everyone's problem but mine. Isn't it boring? No. The taste of human life is so extensive and brief. The right amount to sip and spend your life until death. As the flashback settles, it seems as if Kashimo is now defeated, and we see Hakari's domain expansion finally broken. Sukuna looks up and says, "You're finally here," and we see Uraume and Hakari falling from the sky. But not only those two, Yuji and Higuruma have entered the battle, and Sukuna questions them, asking them what the hell could they possibly do. The chapter ends.